your soulmate, just realized they lost you because they trusted the wrong person. Betrayal. Sometimes the deepest wound in a person's life does not come from the one they loved. It comes from the one they trusted. Tonight, somewhere not too far from where you are, your soulmate has finally understood something that has been hidden from them for far too long. They lost you, but not because the love wasn't real. Not because the connection wasn't strong. Not because you weren't worth fighting for. They lost you because they listened to the wrong voice. They trusted the wrong person, and now for the first time, they can see exactly what that mistake cost them. Listen carefully, because this message did not reach you by accident. The truth has a way of surfacing when you least expect it. It can stay buried for months. It can stay buried for years. People can build entire lives on top of it, convincing themselves that the story ended the way they were told it ended. But buried truth never stays quiet forever. Eventually it rises. Eventually it breaks through. And when it does, it shatters every illusion that was built to keep two people apart. Tonight, that illusion is shattering inside the heart of your soulmate. So before you scroll away, stay, because what you are about to hear explains everything you never understood about how the two of you fell apart. Don't skip. It started as an ordinary moment. Your person was going through their day the way they always do, carrying the same quiet expression they have worn for a long time. To anyone watching, nothing seemed unusual. They moved through their routine. They handled their responsibilities. They wore the mask they had perfected, the one that says everything is fine. But underneath that calm surface, a question had been forming for a while. A small, uncomfortable question that they had tried to ignore again and again. What if the version of events they had always believed was not the truth at all? What if everything they thought they knew about why you left was built on a lie? For a long time your person had a story they told themselves. A story that explained the distance. A story that explained the silence. A story that made the heartbreak make sense. And in that story, they were certain about one thing. They believed something about you that wasn't true. They believed you had changed. They believed you had given up. They believed you were no longer the person they had connected with so deeply. And that belief did not come from you. It came from someone else. Someone they trusted. Someone whose words they never thought to question. Don't skip. You see, there was a person in their life who had influence. Someone close enough to be believed. Someone whose opinion carried weight. It might have been a friend. It might have been a family member. It might have been someone who claimed to be looking out for them. Someone who wore the face of concern, while quietly doing something else, entirely. And that person spoke words into your soulmate's mind that slowly poisoned the connection. A comment here, a doubt there, a suggestion planted so carefully that your soulmate never even realized it had been planted at all. Drop by drop the doubt grew. They told your soulmate things about you. They twisted situations. They reframed your actions. They took moments that were innocent and made them look like something they were not. They whispered, warnings disguised as advice. They said things like, "You deserve better." They said things like, "They're not serious about you." They said things like, "I'm only telling you this because I care." And your soulmate, trusting them completely, believed every word. Because why would someone close to them lie? Why would someone who claimed to love them lead them astray? Don't skip. That is the cruelest part of trusting the wrong person. You never see it coming. The betrayal does not arrive wearing the face of an enemy. It arrives wearing the face of someone you love, It arrives in soft tones and gentle words and concerned expressions. It arrives disguised as protection, and by the time you realize what has happened, the damage is already done. The seeds of doubt have already grown into walls, the connection has already been pushed to the edge, and two people who were meant to be together have already been driven apart, never fully understanding why. So your soulmate pulled away from you, not because they wanted to, but because they had been convinced it was the right thing to do. They started to doubt your intentions. They started to question your feelings. They started to believe that you did not care the way they once thought you did. And the more they pulled away, the more the distance grew. The silence stretched. The connection that once felt so alive began to feel uncertain. And eventually, painfully, the two of you drifted into separate lives, both of you wounded, both of you confused, both of you blaming yourselves for something that was never truly your fault. Don't skip, but here is what your soulmate never knew. While that person was poisoning their mind about you, the truth was the complete opposite of everything they were told. You had not changed. You had not given up. You had not stopped caring. In fact, you were just as confused and hurt as they were, wondering why the connection had suddenly grown cold, wondering what you had done wrong, wondering why someone who had once felt so close was suddenly so far away. Neither of you understood that there was a third presence in the story. A hidden hand quietly pulling you apart from the shadows. And tonight, your soulmate finally discovered it. The truth came to them in a way they did not expect. Maybe it was a conversation that revealed too much. Maybe it was an old message they finally saw in a new light. Maybe it was a slip of the tongue, a moment where the mask of that trusted person finally cracked, and your soulmate caught a glimpse of what had really been happening all along. However it came, it hit them like a wave, and suddenly, all the pieces they had never been able to fit together began to fall into place. Don't skip. The realization came slowly at first, then all at once. They thought back to the comments, the warnings, the carefully placed doubts. They thought about how every conversation with that person had somehow ended with them feeling worse about you. They thought about how the distance had grown right around the time those conversations started, and a cold, sickening understanding spread through them. The person they had trusted had not been protecting them. They had been separating them. The advice had not been love. It had been interference, and the heartbreak they had carried for so long had been built on a foundation of lies. Your soulmate's hands began to tremble. Their breath caught in their chest, because the weight of what they were realizing was almost too much to bear. They had lost you. They had pushed away the one person who had felt like home, and they had done it because they listened to someone who never had their best interest at heart. The grief was immediate, but it was not the only thing they felt. Beneath the grief came something sharper, regret, a deep aching regret that cut all the way to the bone. Don't skip. They remembered the connection now without the distortion, without the lies layered on top of it. They remembered who you really were. The way you understood them, the way you made them feel safe, the way conversations with you flowed so naturally that time seemed to disappear. They remembered the comfort, the laughter, the sense of finally being truly seen, and they realized that all of it had been real. None of it had been a mistake. The only mistake had been believing the wrong person over their own heart. And then came the anger. Not at you, never at you, but at the one who had deceived them. At the one who had worn a mask of friendship while quietly tearing apart the most important connection of their life. Your soulmate felt a fire rise within them, a fury at having been manipulated, at having been lied to, at having lost something irreplaceable because of someone else's interference. They had given that person their trust, and that trust had been used as a weapon against the very thing that could have made them happy. Don't skip, but what happened next would shake your soulmate even more than the betrayal itself. Because as they sat there, trembling with the weight of this realization, another truth surfaced, one they had never imagined. They discovered that the interference had not only been aimed at them, it had been aimed at you too. The same person who had whispered doubts into your soulmate's ear had also worked to plant doubts about your soulmate in your mind. They had played both sides. They had told you things that weren't true, just as they had told your soulmate things that weren't true. The realization stole the breath from your soulmate's chest, because suddenly they understood the full scope of what had been done. This was not a single misunderstanding. This was not one bad piece of advice. This was a deliberate, calculated effort to keep two people apart. Words had been twisted on both ends. Messages may have been ignored, hidden, or misrepresented. Stories had been told to each of you about the other. Stories designed to create distance, designed to plant fear, designed to make sure the two of you never found your way back to one another. Don't skip. Your soulmate thought about all the times they had wondered why you never reached out. All the times they had assumed your silence meant you no longer cared, and now they had to consider a possibility that broke their heart all over again. What if you had wanted to reach out? What if you had tried? What if the silence they blamed you for was never your choice at all? What if both of you had been kept in the dark, each one believing the worst about the other, while a single person quietly made sure the truth never reached either of you? The tears came then, heavy and unstoppable, but mixed into the grief was something else, clarity. For the first time in a very long time, your soulmate could see the whole picture. They could see that the love had been real. They could see that the connection had never been the problem. They could see that the two of you had been victims of someone else's lies, not authors of your own failure, and that clarity, as painful as it was, brought with it something unexpected. Hope, because if the connection had only been broken by lies, then it could be repaired by truth. Don't skip. A person close to your soulmate noticed the tears and asked what was wrong, and for the first time your soulmate spoke the truth out loud. I lost them, they said, their voice shaking, and it was never their fault. It was never even mine. I was lied to. We both were. The words tumbled out, years of confusion finally finding their answer. I trusted the wrong person. I let someone convince me to walk away from the one connection that actually mattered, and I never even questioned it. I just believed them. The person beside them did not know what to say. How could they? But your soulmate was no longer looking for sympathy. Something had changed in them. The grief was still there, but it was no longer the dominant feeling. In its place was something stronger. Determination. Because now that they could see the truth, they could not unsee it. Now that they understood what had really happened, they could not pretend it away, and the one thing they wanted more than anything in that moment was to undo the damage that had been done. Don't skip. If I could talk to them right now, your soulmate said quietly, I would tell them the truth. I would tell them that I never stopped caring. I would tell them that everything they were told about me was a lie, just like everything I was told about them. I would tell them that I'm so sorry I believed the wrong person. And I would ask them for the chance to make it right. Their voice broke on the last words. Because the regret was real, but so was the love, and love that survives a betrayal like this is a rare and powerful thing. You see, the connection between the two of you was strong enough that it took deliberate interference to break it. Think about that. It did not fall apart on its own. It did not fade from a lack of feeling. It did not die from indifference. Someone had to actively work to destroy it. Someone had to lie, manipulate, and deceive just to pull the two of you apart. And even after all of that, even after years of distance and silence and misunderstanding, the connection is still here, still alive, still refusing to disappear. That is not weakness. That is proof of how strong it always was. Don't skip. So if you are watching this, understand what it means. The story you were told about why the two of you fell apart was not the whole story. There were things you never knew, words that were twisted, truths that were hidden, a person who worked behind the scenes to keep you apart, and whatever you blamed yourself for, whatever you assumed about your soulmate's silence, whatever conclusions you reached in the lonely aftermath, you deserve to know that it was not the full truth. The connection was real. The love was real. The interference was real too. And right now, somewhere not far from you, your soulmate is sitting with the weight of a truth they wish they had seen years ago. They are grieving the time that was lost. They are angry at the one who deceived them, but more than anything, they are finally free. Free from the lies, free from the distortion, free to see you clearly again, the way they always should have, and in that freedom, a single thought is growing louder and louder in their heart. They want to find their way back to you. They want to tell you the truth. They want a chance to fix what someone else broke. Don't skip. The trust they gave to the wrong person cost them dearly, but the love they have for you was never destroyed. It was only buried under lies, and now that those lies are crumbling, the love is rising back to the surface, stronger and clearer than ever, because some bonds cannot be broken by deception. They can only be delayed, and the delay is finally coming to an end. So do not let the past convince you that the connection was not real. Do not let the silence convince you that they did